Yes, guys, welcome to SFeatleyTV F1, and we're here for another preview for the Spanish Grand Prix. It's round 6 of the 2022 FIA Formula 1 World Championship, and I've got Peter Brook back from his channel, Brook F1. How you doing, my friend? You all right? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
So,
yeah, your sound's a bit intermittent.
Don't know why that, but there you go. Yeah, how are you? Let's see if I can sort this out, actually.
Yeah, everything's good.
Should be all right. It's picking up. Yeah. So
yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Done. Bloody technology. Yeah. So obviously, started the proper European season. Obviously, we had Imola, but this is like where the real European season starts now. And obviously, Circuit Barcelona. We've had testing there earlier in the pre-season, so it's usually one of the the testing circuit venues they go to. So you'll be seeing a lot of upgrades for this session for this weekend. In particular, Mercedes have been looking at a lot of upgrades for their car. And what did you make of them? Like, because they bought upgrades in Miami, but it's like they showed a bit of promise in FP2, but really didn't come to fruition in qualifying and into the race. They're still very lagging behind Ferrari and Red Bull. So kind of we want to know really how these upgrades have improved them even further. Have they managed to sort out the certain areas in the car that are a problem?
For the time being, it does seem to. I mean, Miami probably wasn't the best circuit to be testing new parts on. And they themselves, even though they went fastest in FP2, they said they don't read too much into this. And obviously in the race, their pace was not much different than before. But so far in the 2 practice sessions, it looks like that it has worked. I mean, they brought quite a lot of upgrades. They seem to have an entirely new floor on the car. And it was immediately clear that most of the porpoising had gone because they were running matching Ferrari and Red Bull's times and had and were actually going fastest on the straights as well.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
that's the time being. It looks.
Yeah, I mean, like, because that's the one thing that we've noticed is that they've been struggling in a straight line quite a bit in this season, and people have been wondering how can they go from being one of the fastest in the straight line with their engine being one of the powerhouses it is, to all of a sudden being struggling to even compete with Red Bulls and even Ferraris. I'm actually just going to bring up results from the practice session, so just see a brief of what we saw in practice. And so Charles Leclerc and Sainz locked out the front two. That was happening for. So Mercedes 4th and 6th, with George Russell 4th and Hamilton in 6th. Both getting decent amount of laps in as well during the hour session. And you can tell, look, they're only about now a second off the pace of the Ferraris. They were a little bit further off, I'd say, in Miami and in Imola. Quite a way off, and actually in Imola and Saudi Arabia, to be honest. And in the second session, you can see that Charles Leclerc was fastest again, and they were able to manage to actually sneak second and third and into the 119. So something's definitely improved. Whatever they've done with the floor and whatever they've done in relation to this sort of straight line speed, it has seemed to make a difference. Now, that could just be Ferrari keeping, like, and Red Bull not turning the wick up. You mean, like, some of them can be still sandbagging, right? So, but if they carry on like that, surely they'll be sort of maybe pushing podium a position which will be a relief for them. Just at least be back in the fight with them, with Ferrari and Red Bull, because I think that's what we want to see. We want to see a third team in that mix.
Yeah, I mean, it's unlikely that they'll have completely closed the gap. I mean, FP2 is more indicative of race pace than FP1 because in FP2 it's at the similar time of day as the race, and that's when they do their long runs, so it gives you a better idea. That obviously doesn't translate into qualifying pace. I think the issue with straight lines, I mean, it may not so much be a lack of performance in the engine, but I think when the car is bouncing up and down like that, just for the driver, it doesn't give you such. The main area it doesn't help is braking at the end of long straight. It doesn't give you that same level of confidence, and I imagine it does slow down the car a bit if the bottom of the car is constantly hitting the track. But yeah, I mean, this is the thing. They're not in qualifying. They're not as far off, but at race pace, they do tend to fall quite far behind Red Bull and Ferrari. So there's quite a gap to go there, I think. And yeah, I don't think it's going to turn around. And if it does, it might be one of those. If they do go fastest somehow, it might be one of those things that only lasts for a couple of races because we don't really see teams bringing one upgrade package and making such a big improvement in one go normally.
I mean, obviously, Motorsport, Magpie, big up yourself. Lewis was 6 kph down in the speed trap, and Russell 4 kph. Not sure where the AWS got their graphics from. Well, that's not. It's not terrible. It was a lot better than it was.
I mean, it was talking about performance rather than like raw speed. So it was an odd graphic that they used because it's like, well, surely performance in a straight line is just how fast you're going because it's a straight line. But unless it means, oh, they're now not porpoising at all, so it's running nice and smoothly or whatever they take from that. But yeah, your straight line speed is going to be dictated by your setup and wing levels and everything else. And obviously, this is a high downforce circuit, so you do need a reasonable amount of wing, but then you do need to compromise with the very long pit straight as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, because the main obviously part of it here is that you want the wing going through places like turn 3, turn 4, 5, and like turn 9 as well. You want a fair bit of wing to be able to get through those corners quite easily. Then obviously, after coming off the last chicane and knowing the cars that are being able to follow a lot closer, you're going to get, if you're running a higher wing than a car behind you that's managing to keep up, more likely they're going to be able to out drag you down the straight because it is quite a long straight down to turn 1. So, I mean, Ferrari though, if we go towards like Ferrari and Red Bull, because those are the two fighting at the minute for the championship. To me, Red Bull seem to have some sort of momentum on their shoulder. They seem to have some momentum behind them, and no matter what Ferrari are trying, they're sort of not. They're not being able to hit back. I was expecting Ferrari with the first and second in qualifying to really hammer home their advantage, but Max being able to pull off that stunning overtake at turn 1, which was pivotal, to be honest, to the way the race played out. Meant he couldn't do that. So they need a big answer here in Spain.
Yeah, it's definitely, the tables have definitely turned in the last 2 races, where even if Max hasn't done so well in qualifying, he's been basically just cruised to the win in the races. And McLaren and Ferrari even have looked quite frazzled and been trying to come up with solutions because on race pace, suddenly Red Bull, now that the car is for the most part working, it seems to just be running a lot better.
I think I was on
and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I was on Motorsport, my pile on another stream, and we mentioned it after Miami, which was, it doesn't seem to be that the because I thought it's something to do with tire degradation, and like they can't look after the tyre very well. Because it gets to about the middle of the stint, and all of a sudden Red Bull come alive. But then, after maybe a little bit of management, Ferrari still just about stay there. So I think it's to do with tire. We said about it. If it's to do with tire temperature, that the fact that they're to keep up with Red Bull and keep ahead, they're pushing the tire too hard. So they end up with so they end up with how do we put it with tires, front tires especially, that are overheating, so they're struggling to keep them in operating window. Because these tires, if they can go 1 degree or 2 degrees out of the operating window, like it's a struggle to even corner and grip and be able to get optimal performance. So Red Bull been maybe something in their suspension system that be able to be easier on the temperature of the tires, but Ferrari seem to struggle with theirs. Maybe it also might be down to the fact that Max has that a little bit more experience than Leclerc in managing, because those two are obviously the main contenders at the moment. I don't see Sainz. This is his own race. If anyone's going to try and win to state a claim to a Ferrari challenge in the title, he's going to have to do it here. So,
yeah, I think I imagine part of it is porpoising, because the Ferrari does it as well, not as badly as Mercedes, but that can't help tire temperatures or tire wear. And that, plus if they realize they're not as fast and they feel like they have to push harder, that again is just going to it's just going to wear it out
badly. But it seems to take it very well. The Ferrari, it seems to be
it doesn't
very agile enough to take it.
It doesn't. I think it's just because it's not quite as severe as what Mercedes have had, so it doesn't. It doesn't affect the stability going into the corner quite so badly. And maybe part of that maybe it's the whole no side pod design plays a role in that as well at Mercedes, because they don't seem to be interested in getting rid of that feature at the moment. When they first announced that, I was thinking, I can't. I mean, people were claiming, it could give them this gigantic advantage, which obviously it hasn't. But I was thinking that can't possibly work for cooling, because you need the side pods for the radiators and everything. And to have such tight bodywork over the engine. I mean, the first cars that tried that had problems with overheating and things breaking and stuff like that. And it's like you always had to be careful with the amount of space you've got around the engine,
especially if you're going to places like Singapore, for example. You're going to very humid condition tracks. Malaysia was one of them. Malaysia was like, you had to have maximum cooling. So if you imagine taking a car with no side pods to Malaysia to race at, the thing will blow up in about 5 seconds.
I mean, obviously, Miami was pretty hot and humid, and at the moment Spain is as well. So they'll probably see more going into the summer with the European races, how it handles.
And though you have dirty air, not so much dirty air as they had last year, it's still, no matter what, that's still warm air coming off the car. So if you follow a car behind, you might be able to follow closer, but the temperatures are still going to go up. So at a certain point, if you can't get past someone within 2 laps, you're going to have to back off, right, to cool the car down. Otherwise, you'll just overheat.
I think another consideration, I don't know how much of this they put into this car, but with their previous cars, Mercedes, they were designed to run at the front. And so that when on the rare occasions they were behind someone, they tended not to work so well, and that's when they had overheating issues. So maybe they put that into this if they were expecting to be running at the front again. They thought, okay, we'll think about that rather than having to worry about being stuck behind other drivers. So that might, but then saying that, in the races they're usually running more on their own rather than behind anyone, because the gap gets quite big quite fast.
Yeah, unless they're recovering from any bad qualifying or any bad start. I mean, Hamilton didn't have the greatest starts. I mean, he was stuck behind Bottas until Bottas made his mistake. If Bottas made a mistake, he would have been stuck behind him for frigging ages. I don't think he would ever probably got past him. So, so it was lucky him and George Russell got past Bottas in that instance because they weren't going anywhere. Like he was slowly catching him up, but he wasn't exactly enough advantage to be able to really close up and overtake.
I mean, he'd spent most of the race about 3 seconds behind, and then towards the end managed to get closer. And then obviously in Imola, he was behind Tsunoda or Gasly from basically the entire race, and George ran a large part of it. And George ran a large part of it on his own.
I think because I think he was part. I think he was part of the train, and he managed to, because he was at the front of it, more to the front of it. He could manage to get out of it a little bit at the start of the race.
It was around Bottas Vettel. I think it was a couple of passes.
But
Lewis was in a train of like 4 or 5 cars.
Yeah, and that was just it. The whole race, and no matter what the strategy was, he was going to be stuck behind them, no matter what. And again, it begs that question. I mean, what's going right with Russell, but not right with Lewis? The guy is 7 times world champion. Like, he shouldn't. Like, he's shown in Miami that he's still got it. He didn't. I mean, he's pulled off a mega lap in qualifying to be able to put it on 5th. So it's not like he hasn't got the raw speed. I don't think he's got the trust in the car, to be honest. I don't think he has that faith in the car that unlike he used to have before. If you see what I mean.
Because if you don't have that trust in the car, maybe it's just. I think maybe it's just the characteristics of the car just not fully working for him. Because I don't think it's a case of his age or anything. He's not getting any slower. Or if he is, he's done a very good job of hiding it. I think maybe it's just the setup, and maybe it's just working better for George at the moment. Because we've only ever seen, other than the one time he drove for Mercedes a couple of years ago, we've only ever seen George in like back marker and midfielder cars. So we haven't really seen what he can do at the front and how adaptable he is to different cars or anything else.
I think with George, and this is what I have explained it, is I think George has been told one thing: just go out there and prove that you're worthy of this seat, and why we made the right decision, like to put you in this seat. So that's pretty much what he's been doing. Just keep his head down and sort of get on with the job. I think with Lewis being sort of maybe the team leader, the one who's been there for so many years, he's more of that Schumacher type where he would not spend so much time worrying about the driving of the car, but more about the analysis of the car. Like, how do I put it? Basically trying to find solutions. That's why I think in Saudi Arabia he tried a different setup and he got knocked out in Q1. Right, for example.
Yeah, I think it's partly that. I think it's also the kind of hierarchy that they had with Bottas is gone, because I think they want to give George a fair go against Lewis, and also because they're not fighting for the championships, they don't need to be invoking lots of team orders and putting all their eggs in one basket. So it's like, well, we may as well just let them both go out and see how they can do. Partly that, but also if Lewis, because obviously he's approaching the end of his career, and eventually he's going to have to step aside. So they want to transition George away into George being the long-term team leader there. So I think it's a mixture of those.
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of that, and I think Russell's got the talent. If they give him the car, he's just as good as anyone up there. For me, right? And he proved, and the reason he proved that secure, right? Like he left Bottas on his arse, basically, pretty much. So that for me was like, yeah, you're good enough, right? You get in this car, you'll be good enough. Right, you'll give Max a run for his money. Leclerc, all these drivers are one for their money. For me,
I mean, we saw that was. I mean, that was really extraordinary what he did in Sakia. But we've seen he's clearly better than Bottas, because obviously Bottas, it was very marginal in qualifying with Lewis, but race pace it wasn't there. And the only times he beat him, it was right at the start of the season before they were invoking team orders, and he just gained the lead at the start, and they just maintained position basically. but Russell is, well, he's either matching or beating Lewis in both qualifying and race pace at the moment. There haven't been any areas where he's been
Bottas
kind of
made too many
abnormally
mistakes
slower.
as well. I think Bottas as well made too many mistakes as well.
Yeah, I mean Bottas is somebody who he can lead from the front, but he's not good in like wheel to wheel battles or anything like that. Yeah, basically that's.
I think a big one was
he just can't.
Remember 2018 where he should have gone where everyone, like even Daniel Ricciardo, said, I would have sent it up Vettel, like sent it up the inside of Vettel on the last lap, like cause he was catching him.
Yeah. In Bahrain.
But because Vettel was on.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. That's the thing. If that was Hamilton, he would have passed him.
He would have
Bottas just doesn't. We've seen this. Obviously, his race starts tend to be awful, and he just doesn't gain the positions back after that.
I think he's just not aggressive. I just don't think he's aggressive enough in the behind the wheel. Like it doesn't look like he's aggressive enough behind the wheel. You know when you can see a driver, you can see a car like behaviour, like the car's body language, like you can tell if the car's been driven aggressively or not. And I don't think it's with Lewis. You know, if you're going down there, if he's going down there, he's going down there, and that's the end of it. Right? Bottas, it's like maybe not. Like it's always.
That's the thing. He doesn't have that.
That killer instinct.
That's the thing with drivers like Verstappen, Hamilton, Leclerc, is that even if they will go for moves, even if they can't guarantee it's going to work, they'll still just try, and most of the time it does. Whereas Bottas doesn't really; he'll only go for very safe moves or something though there's a minimal risk of a collision or anything going wrong.
I'd say that I'm sorry, I'm just have to point. I'm gonna have to point out where unless it's Max, where we'll try it and we'll just take someone out if it don't work. For me, sorry, I had to put that one in. So, and then Christian Horner will blame everyone else. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, like to be honest, I'm like. I don't think there's going to be, despite Mercedes looking better, I don't think there's going to be much change in terms of the front of the field. What do you think in terms of shock performances this weekend? Who do you see really standing out for you?
I mean, look at the results. I mean, it looked like Aston Martin were doing reasonably well, but then of course they've caused a bit of a stir because they brought a car which looks basically the same as Red Bull's.
Oh God, they're not doing that again.
We're seeing kind of they've kind of the return of tracing points. Like the side pods on Aston Martin, they look almost exactly the same as the Red Bull side pods, and I think Red Bull themselves are actually launching or they are protesting this. They have literally just copied them.
But look from what I read from the rules from the last time they did it, right? They were fine on doing it on the outside. Yeah, you can copy a car on the outside, right? Because you can just trace it. But in the inside, which is what their brakes were, they had you can only get designs from the inside through inside information, right? And that's where they went wrong because they got information from Mercedes on what their brakes were. So that's why they were punished. Right. So
yeah, it's the issue of intellectual property.
Yeah. Like so as much as Red Bull I think will protest, I don't think they'll go to anywhere. It won't go anywhere because it's on the outside. I could get a picture of your car right now and trace it on a bit of paper. Like this is
that's the thing. They can probably they can claim that easily. It's just coincidence because if there's no evidence that they have access to blueprints, kind of Nigel Stepney style, then
as long as they've not got.
I mean, we've had this in the past. I remember.
Do you remember McLaren? They got information from Ferrari and they got like handed to them.
That's the other thing is where would they get this from? Because they're not like a customer team of Red Bull. Other than the fact that Aston Martin used to be their title sponsors, but other than that, there's no connection.
That could
But
be
people
one.
do this all the time. I mean, I remember HRT, like their rear wing was pretty much a carbon copy of Brawn's, but because the rest of the car wasn't, it was still the slowest car on the grid.
God, they were the worst example of a team I've ever seen in my life. Even Minardi were better than them. Fuck me. Like, how is it we can have the start of the race at Malaysia twice, and both times you don't qualify to start in it? Like, you made to stay in your garages because you couldn't get over 100%.
It was the problem they had with them and Lotus and Virgin is they would start every season just missing the crash test, and then they miss pre-season testing, and they come to a car that's only half built, and it's as if they were just starting from square one every year, which is probably why they made no progress.
Yeah, I think that look, Lotus and Virgin, at least like they had a battle between themselves. HRT was just like nowhere. Like they were just absolutely dead last.
I mean, they had the smallest budget. To be fair to them, because I mean, Lotus actually made a fair amount of progress.
They were promised by Bernie a lot of money when they came into the sport, but it was sort of thrown in their face, to be honest. So you could look at that as well. I mean, sorry, it's just like I'm sorry, it was just absolutely. I'm sorry if you've missed the first session by not qualifying in 7 seconds within 7 seconds. I'm sorry, I would be like, I'm going home. There's no point. What's the point in wasting money on this? There's just no point. I ain't catching the 7 seconds up. I need everyone to fall off the grid just to get off points. Yeah. So that's why everyone just try and voted them off. Everyone was basically hoping they'd be outside 107%, so they don't have them there in the way. So, But anyway, back to here and now. I mean, let me just have a look at this session. I think Alpine have done quite well, to be honest. Alpine have done quite well this session in session 2. Alonso 6th, Ocon 9th. Mick Schumacher's finally turned up with 10th, and Magnussen in 12th. I think Haas had I've had an initial start, and now they've just sort of dropped down a bit. They've had a dream start to their season, but I think now it's sort of they're starting to drop off a bit, and I think because everyone's starting to upgrade their car. So I feel that Haas are sort of, because they're always on the budget. I don't think because they're not being able to upgrade their car so much, they're starting to drop down the grid a little bit. What do you think about that? Do you think they're dropping down the grid?
Yeah, Haas, they don't have
the budget.
Yeah, you're cutting out a lot, so I kind of caught bits here and there.
I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with this.
But
is that better? I don't know what's going on with this. Hang on a minute.
A bit better. I think you're muted now.
Is that better?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
That's better. Okay. Just let us know if it goes off again. Bloody thing.
Yeah.
I'm glad this is the only stream I'm doing today. So I can get to work on this.
Yeah.
This tomorrow. I mean, Haas for me, because they don't have the budget, they're starting to sort of fall back a bit towards the bottom end of the points. They had a good start to the season, and sort of their financial ties is starting to hurt them a bit. Plus, also they lost one of their major title sponsors, obviously, because of the Russian war thing.
I think they still haven't really. I think they still have. They probably behind the scenes they're still trying to resolve a lot of the problems. I imagine there's lawsuits going on and everything with Mazepin. But they, the thing is, in the last race they could have scored points. It just all went wrong right at the end. So the car is still reasonably fast, but this weekend they haven't brought any upgrades, and most of the other teams have. So that probably isn't going to help.
Most of the other teams have got the budget, right? Whereas Haas don't have the budget really to upgrade the car, and that's where they sort of struggled towards the end of 2020, compared to 2019. You saw 2018; they were like constantly 5th, 6th, or best of the rest, and then 2019 it got a little bit lower. 2020 it got even lower, like towards the bottom end, and struggling to get even a point or two. And then obviously 21, they just left everything till this year.
Yeah.
And basically parked themselves at 3 seconds at the back. So they've gradually dropped back because they just don't have the finances. And Gene has made it very clear he's not investing any more in his team unless his team's starting to go back to the top. Well, it's not going to go back to the top without your money, mate.
Yeah,
it needs your money to do it.
I think they're in a similar situation to Brawn in that they've put all their investment into the kind of factory spec of the car, but then they don't have much left for development, so they're just going to get slower and slower as it goes on. It's obviously a less extreme example because they haven't had the fastest car at any point. But if you think they were more or less as fast as Mercedes or only a bit slower in the first round, and now they're more around like Alpha Tauri out McLaren kind of pace, it's clearly going down because they don't. I mean, Magnussen, he brings Jack and Jones as his title sponsor. I don't know what Schumacher has other than just himself. I mean, he probably could bring a lot of money from his own or from his dad's finance.
I think he has one-on-one banking.
Right. Yeah.
Like that.
Oh yeah. Is that what the whole boat meme? Is that what, because from Drive to Survive, it's one of their sponsors
so.
or something like IKEA, something similar to that. But I feel like with Nick, if he was desperate enough, he probably could become a pay driver himself because his dad is obviously extremely wealthy. But yeah, I think it's just the lack of development, and
as much as you say he's a paid driver, he's actually got the talent as well.
I mean, obviously he is. I mean, he isn't a paid driver at the moment. I'm saying he could become an unofficial one if they.
Because usually when we mean paid drivers, are basically come in the sport and they've got no talent whatsoever, but they've got money behind them, so that usually helps. But yeah, you're right. I think he can do that, but he's definitely got the talent to back it up with. And I'm sure his dad, if it had to come to that, would do that anyway. Like obviously in the state he's in, I hope he get keep fighting. So yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that would be a huge miss for him is actually having his dad to be there to guide him at the early stages of his career in F1. That is probably what's the biggest miss from Mick, I feel, is that he could have done a lot with his father's input, a lot of it, I think.
That's the thing. He hasn't had that for most of his junior career.
Not since 2013, yes, yeah.
And back then, I don't know what he would have. He may have only just started single seat. I haven't looked, but I think that was well before he did like European Formula 3 and won that. So I think he may have only just started in single seat at that point.
I'll just have a look.
Because he's 20.
He's 23. 1999.
Yeah, so he'd have been. He probably could well have still been in karting at that time.
Began in karting in 2008, progressed into the German ADAC Formula 4 by 2015.
Okay, so he was still in karting then.
He's pretty much still in karting by them days. Because he could have really helped. I'm sure his brother Ralph probably helps him.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, by brother, I mean Nick's uncle.
His uncle, yeah.
No. But again, like that's Ralph saying it's not Michael Schumacher.
Yeah, I mean, you can see this obviously if he is helping him. Presumably, he's helping his son David, and then his career is kind of going down the toilet.
Yeah, because he's David's. He's in a. Isn't he in those? Is he a racing driver?
Yeah, David. He did Formula 3 last year. I can't remember what he's doing now, but he's not really going anywhere.
Formula 3.
He won a race or two last year in Formula 3, but otherwise
he's in touring cars at the minute.
Okay, yeah.
He's doing the Deutsche Tourenwagen Masters for its 22
DTM,
campaign.
yeah.
DTM basically.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be ending up in Formula 1 anytime soon.
That's a shame. But yeah, and obviously he's got I don't know. But yeah, so I mean Mick is, but yeah, obviously without that experience behind him, it does not help him a lot. But I think he's finally in his feet now. He's sort of weighed up his opponent, his teammate, and he's now starting to produce his best to beat Magnussen. I think if Mick Schumacher can produce his best races and his best performance, he can beat He'll beat Magnussen out the water for me. Not saying Magnussen's not a slow driver; he is a very good driver, but I do feel that Mick would have the edge. I think it's taken him 4 or 5 races for him to just really sort of get used to maybe having him around and having that competition, because he's had Nikita Mazepin the year before. Like, let's be honest, that ain't competition.
It's not just that; it's just being competitive with other drivers as well, because he was driving on his own for most of last year.
Yeah, he would overtake. Maybe one time he started behind his teammate, he'd overtake him, and that's it. If you have his own race. Right?
But now he's actually, because the car is competitive, so he can battle with other people.
But then usually when he tries to overtake Mazepin, now Mazepin tries to drive him in or kill him.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah. But I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, sometimes this Grand Prix can be either like last year, which was very good in strategic terms, or it could be a complete bore fest.
Yeah, the issue with this circuit is, I think the drivers and the teams, they know it too well.
They know it, yeah.
Because we've raced here every year for like almost 30 years or more. And
put him in the capital, Madrid. Let's do it.
Just do a street circuit in there.
We'll do Las Vegas. Just do Madrid, Spain.
Or hell, go back to Jerez. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Valencia get resurrected.
No, that was boring. That was
the last race was actually the last race was actually quite good.
That's only because everyone's kept blowing up their engine.
It just it was a good circuit. It just didn't work. It was one of these.
I mean, obviously it was good because Schumacher ended up on the podium. I mean,
I think it was one. Yeah, I mean, it's one of these circuits where, like Yongam, it was supposed to be developed into this this posh-looking plaza in the way that they have with Jeddah and with Miami, but that just didn't happen. So it just looked like nothing.
For me, like the thing is, the history's more here.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's one of these ones that it's been around for such a long time. It's like we may as well just stay. If they got rid of that chicane, I understand why it's there. But
no, I can't understand why it's there. I hated it when they put it in.
The thing is they did it for safety reasons, but I don't remember anyone having big accidents in that corner before.
In that penultimate corner,
because it's really fast.
I remember in the game you could go flat out on it.
You could
put nothing on it.
On like F1 Championship Edition and stuff. But I think the thing is it's gravel, so if a car goes off there, it's probably going to flip. But then if you put a runoff area, that's too fast, and they will just hit the wall.
But here's the thing: is that it's so close to the barriers anyway. You just hit the wall, and like mostly, if you're going into the tire barrier with the halo on as well, and these cars are supposed to be 15% more resistant, than last year's, and last year's ain't exactly like ones that just you could punch your way through it, like Senna's cars. I just didn't see the point. You got Saudi Arabia where you can't even see blind turns, right? So you could go around a blind turn and take someone out, right?
I mean,
Right, and you've got one of the it's literally the fastest street circuit on the planet. Mick Schumacher has a massive accident there, but that's okay. But
the thing,
Spain is not.
It's slower than turn 3, and it's not really any different from the Parabolica. So
Yeah,
they may as well just, because it kills the rhythm of the circuit, and it probably messes up the setup for the cars as well. And with these cars as well, it's so bouncy over the curbs. That's not going to help them much.
the only thing that helps it with is practice. Is like pre-season testing.
Yeah,
because you get to test the slow slow sector, right? But if that's the case, then you've built the chicane. Just go around the outside like you were before, right? And in pre-season, just use the chicane.
Yeah, it just
Simple.
But yeah, the circuit, it's just they know it too well because they test here, and then the weather is consistent as well, and they know within a thousandth of an inch, how what the tires are going to do, when to pit, how to set the car up, and it's just there's no kind
You
of
say that,
buzz.
but then Red Bull fucked it up last time.
Yeah, there's no like, it takes that buzz away on that element of uncertainty, because they just don't make mistakes, and just they know it. Yeah, because it doesn't mean it's a fantastic circuit. And people complain you can't overtake. It's like, well, no, you can. It's the cars that are a problem, because there are 4 very obvious overtaking points on the track. I mean, they tried to take one of them away last year for some reason, but well,
I mean, I like the fact that they've gone back around the outside of turn. I think it's turn 10. Like turn 10, it used to be like sharp, and then you have to go left, right, and I like the fact it's gone like flowing, sweeping round, like it used to be. As a change, it's so you've got the sharp part still there if you want to change it back, right? But for a difference, you've got a change of going around the outside, which is
it's just made it harder to pass
like.
there though by not tightening it up so much. I mean, what
depends how much balls you've got.
If they were going to get rid of it, if they were going to change it, it should have been that final chicane that they'd get rid of. But yeah,
Matt's we're literally going to be 10 minutes, to be honest, because I'm not in the greatest of shape, to be honest. I've had to slept most of the day, and then I had to do dinner because my mom's gone away for the weekend, so I had to do that, which is nice. But yeah, and then I'm having to do a stream now, so yeah. I wanted to predict all the last game in the season, but I can't do that now. I could do it tomorrow, but anyway, qualifying. I'll go for your prediction, your qualifying prediction.
I think Leclerc will be on pole.
Okay.
Red Bull, in practice so far, at least, Red Bull haven't really dazzled anyone. Ferrari have been consistently fastest. So yeah, I think it'll be a similar story to the last race, probably. Just with Mercedes a little bit closer.
That's even on race pace as well, because I'm looking at practice 2 where the race pace is, and Mercedes are up there. Red Bull are 5th and 7th.
Yeah. I mean, with Perez, obviously,
you love to see it.
Yuri Vips took his seat in FP1 and was obviously just doing installation laps and stuff like that, because he was setting by far the slowest times and wasn't pushing the car. So they've missed out on that, and Perez is as well. So it probably had to condense his own practice program.
I don't get that. Why don't you just get the test driver to push?
It was weird just how slow he was going, because the thing is, Nick de Vries drove in the Williams and he went faster than Latifi, but Vips was 5 seconds slower than Leclerc.
Who was Williams again?
Nick de Vries.
Do you know what? That guy should be in here. That guy, because he got dropped from the McLaren Academy, he never got a seat. Right? That's such a shame, because he's quality.
That's the thing, it's F3 champion. He won F2 originally. I mean, he beat Latifi to the F2 championship, and now he's just beating him again his first time in the car.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. It's Latifi. I remember that season. Latifi got in, and I'm like, He's just won another. I think like if you win the F2 Championship, you should be offered a contract first.
It should be an automatic. It should be an automatic seat because they've already said that you can't race in it anymore. So well, then where else are you going to go? And so you're in the position that Piastri's in, where he's just on the sidelines for a year, testing old F1 cars, which is probably no help to him, and then just hoping that Alonso retires next year and he gets a seat.
Yeah, what's the point? What's the point? Like in Piastri sitting there, you might as well loan him out.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying last year he should throw the championship once they found out that Zhou had the seat. He should have thrown it so that he could spend another year in F2 because Zhou would have to leave. But he decided to just
as a racer, the racers ain't going to do that.
It would have been. I think he was so far ahead that it would have been incredibly obvious, and it didn't help that Zhou didn't drive particularly well at the end of the season anyway. So that made it all the harder. But he must have known for a long time he wasn't getting that seat and just accepted that.
But I still think if I was Renault, I'd put him out on loan to one of the teams in F1. Like he could have easily gone. Say like Albon's at loan with Red Bull. Why couldn't Piastri get in there? Same as Haas, for example.
I mean, that was the plan last year, but then Mazepin kind of fucked that because he took the seat when it was meant to go to like either Schumacher or Ilott was meant to get, and then the end. I mean, it would have been at Ilott, but then they went to give it to Mazepin, and now he's in IndyCar and probably never going to race in Formula One. Because even in IndyCar, you got Colton Herta and Pato O'Ward looking at getting seats in F1 now as well.
Is Mazepin in, or is it Ilott?
It's Ilott that's in IndyCar. And the seat that Mazepin got, it looks like it was going to Callum Ilott at first. And then out of nowhere, it goes to Mazepin. And then Ilott's like, okay, I'm not actually racing in F1 anymore. And then he spends last year doing what Ferrari Challenge Europe. And now he's in IndyCar. Yeah,
he's in IndyCar now.
If he wants to get into F1, he needs to beat Colton Herta and Pato O'Ward to a seat because they're now looking at trying to get in there as well. I mean, God knows where, because they're both McLaren.
This is why we need more teams in the sport.
Yeah, we need another Lotus version and HRT, but maybe more competent. Maybe more competent versions. We just because I mean that's the thing. Like Porsche and Audi are supposed to be joining up or something, and then there's talks of Michael Andretti starting a team, so we could see a couple more in coming years.
Max, that'll be on Tuesday, mate. Don't worry, we'll get all that sorted for Tuesday. Anyway, qualifying for me, I'm gonna Leclerc on pole. Sainz second. So I think you want to do something special with the crowd. With the crowd behind him. And I'm going to throw it out there. I'm going to put either Russell or Hamilton third. I'm going to throw it out there. Red Bull ain't impressive to me.
I think it'll still be Red Bull, most likely Max third.
It's most likely they
could beat Perez. So I could see Perez being beaten by the Mercs. I don't think Max will though.
Yeah, unless it takes a mega lap from this. But yeah, I'm gonna go with that to be honest, because like I think Hamilton won the last 2017, 2018.
He's won the last like 5.
2019, 2020, 21. Last 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 25.
Yeah, he's won all of those.
Then he won in 2014, 6.
He didn't win. He won 2014. He
lost 2015 and 2016. Rosberg took him out.
Yeah, and then I don't think he won it before.
He didn't win it before then.
No, 2007 I think and 8 was Raikkonen both times, and then the other years it was like Alonso and Maldonado 1 year and
9 was Button.
Oh yeah,
but
10 was
one of the Red Bulls, I believe.
I think that was Was that Weber? Gosh, who was that? 2011 was more than likely Vettel. 2012 was Maldonado. 2013 was Alonso. I think 2010 might have been Alonso. Actually.
Let's have a look.
See, I can't remember. The thing, nothing happens in the races, so I just can't remember them.
Right. So Alonso was 2006 and 2013. I can't.
Raikkonen won it in
Yes.
2008 and probably 2007 as well.
Yep, multiple winners by year. By year. Here we go.
Mm.
Fucking hell, it went back all the way to 1913. Jesus Christ.
Mm.
Gee, you want to see the circuit for used in 1923? It's literally just one circle.
Yeah.
It looks like a jelly bean. Like, honestly, I'll share it now. It looks like a jelly bean. I'm telling you. Imagine trying to race these cars on this.
Mm.
Look, it's a jelly bean. If you can't get maximum times out of that lot, you might as well just give up driving.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, 96 Schumacher, we all know that.
Was Webber.
Schumacher won.
Yeah, Vettel,
Schumacher won
Alonso.
4 in a row there.
Well, he won most races 4 in a row during that era, to be honest.
Yeah, but I usually like there'd be some sort of fight from McLaren in Spain. I didn't think Ferrari would ever that strong in Spain, but there you go. Yes, Kimi Raikkonen 5, Alonso 6, Massa 7, Raikkonen 8, Jenson Button 9, as we know, Mark Webber, Sebastian Vettel, Pastor Maldonado. That's only because that's because McLaren decided to put no fuel in Hamilton's car.
Yeah.
Dicks, absolute dicks. Right. The amount of mistakes they made probably forced Lewis to I'm going by.
Yeah.
So yeah, Hamilton and then Rosberg, Verstappen because Rosberg decided there's your front wing. I'm going to take you out because I'm in the wrong mode setting. Then Lewis, and Lewis, status quo. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to be winning it.
Unless there's a crash at the front.
Unless Sainz and Charles take each other out, Red Bull have more engine troubles behind them. So when he starts third, that is, he'll gain first, and then that's it.
But yeah, that's outside of accidents involving the front 4. He can't.
At the minute, I just need him to win one Grand Prix, to keep the record going. At the minute, that's as far as it goes at the minute. But yeah, so any good news, any news that says it's improvement is good news. So yeah, I do think probably Leclerc will probably win this one, unless something special from Sainz comes out. I think Leclerc will have the edge over him again. I just don't think Sainz is as quick.
Yeah,
you could see it in Miami. He couldn't keep up with Max and Leclerc that were pushing themselves to another level.
And he probably could have finished 4th if Perez's engine hadn't died midway through, because he was right behind him. Other than that,
and he was still catching him actually towards the end. Actually,
yeah, but because there was the safety car, because he had. That's the thing. He had the fresh tires, but he just couldn't get past, even though they were all still on old tires.
Yeah, because he lost about 16 kph on his engine.
And there was just the gap between Leclerc and Verstappen was enormous to Sainz by the end. After
what are you going to go for in terms of who's going to win?
Probably Verstappen because their race pace just seems to be so strong at the moment.
I used to like you.
It's just they got their upgrade. I mean, they're all bringing upgrades as well. So, but yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
It's upgrade city, Catalunya. It's always
it's the obvious place really, because there's no point trying that in Monaco.
Who do you think is going to be on the podium on the other 2 slots?
Leclerc and Sainz most likely.
I'm going to hang my neck up for one of the Merc boys to do something special. Right, if they can get on the podium, despite having both Ferraris and Red Bulls still in the race, then that's sort of indication that things are improving.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's for me. But anyway, we've come to the end of that Like, I know you're probably bored out your skin listening to us do. But yeah, it's going to be a great, obviously, hopefully it's going to be a good weekend of racing. And the qualifying watch along will be tomorrow as well. There will be a race watch along as well. And as soon as that finishes, then obviously the watch along for the football starts. So busy. So, and then will be a review on Monday. So, but yeah, Peter, thanks for coming on again. Really do appreciate you coming on again. It really means a lot. Yeah, do you want to shout out your channel as well?
Yes, so I'm on YouTube. I'm Peterbrook F1, and I'm also on Instagram and Twitter at Brook_F1.
Wicked. Make sure you go and follow him on Twitter and Instagram. Also, make sure you've subscribed to his YouTube channel as well. It's really important you do that. But we are going to be out of here. So until then, everyone stay safe, stay well.